So now, what we're going to assume is that people, firms, organizations are all rational actors. So now, we know why you choose scarcity. We know what you're going to choose. You're going to always choose that which is best for your self-interest. Now the question is, how are you going to make those choices? Well, when you think about how, what you really have to ask yourself is what motivates your choice. And I've already given it away by mistake, self-interest. Your self-interest is going to be the big motivator behind all of your choices. And therefore, we can say that all behavior is defined by perceived best interest. Again, the guy who robbed the servo thought it was in his best interest, self-seeking, to rob that servo. What it comes down to is rather the implication of self-interest is that incentives matter. Therefore, if we are going to understand how people choose, we have to understand the incentives that motivate your choices. Okay, now we can say that that's easy. What's the driving incentive behind being here at university? Well, we are all here. We are students in free enterprise, so our driving incentive is money. Is that it? No. That's just one incentive. There's so many others. Consider money, fame, power. It's a great incentives, right? What about warm blood? To do something and feel the accolades of those around you. You help the lady across the street, and you just feel the warm glow of society because you are so good. Or perhaps what motivates you is the afterlife. I'm going to go to Calcutta, and I am going to feed the poor because I want to be received at heaven's gate by St. Peter. All you're really discussing, all you're really saying when you look at this is identifying what motivates behavior. But it always boils down to self-interest. Regardless of whether you are Mother Teresa helping the destitute in Calcutta, or students in free enterprise who are just gross capitalists trying to make a buck. It's still the same thing. Fundamentally, it is the same thing. Self-interest. Some people's self-interests are more noble than others. Who cares? Now, we've gotten why we choose, what we choose, how we choose it. But what are the limitations on this? Well, we're going to make some generalizations. We're going to say that the limitations on choice, we'll call them constraints. And we'll say that all choices are limited by an agent's resources. Or in other words, what your constraints do is your constraints define the viable choice sets available to you. You have a choice today of coming here and listening to me. Well, could you have alternatively gone out and, I don't know, taken your private jet for a quick spin? No. Not a viable choice. Beyond your constraint set. Therefore, if you can imagine, what are your constraints? Your constraints are, examples of your constraints are your income, family, your education, your appearance, your location, your age, everything. Everything that goes into who you are, ultimately, are going to define the limitations that govern your choices. So now, what we're going to assume, as economists, we're going to say that agents maximize self-interest subject to constraints. If you study economics and you were to go into some of the higher levels, this is called constrained optimization. Economists will go so far as to come up with mathematical representations of your behavior, which is, again, always assuming your unlimited wants in a limited world. So now, if I know why you choose to appease your self-interest, if I know what you choose by identifying your incentives, and if I can identify your constraints, then I can predict your choices. If I can predict your choices, I can predict your behavior. And if I can predict your behavior, I can influence your behavior. And ultimately, if I can influence your behavior, I can make you act in my self-interest. And that's the goal. And consider what you're doing. You decide to start a business, free enterprise. What are you really trying to achieve? You are trying to influence the behavior of others to act in your self-interest. You're selling, I don't know, t-shirts. You put some funky design on the t-shirts and you market it. And you make everyone believe that you are selling the coolest t-shirt. It's just a t-shirt. You have effectively manipulated the self-interest of someone else to appease your self-interest. Isn't that the goal of being an entrepreneur? And that is all I wanted to say about that. First of all, any questions? Cool. Yeah, sure.
How do you account for, okay, you were talking before about, for instance, Mother Teresa desiring to do what she does to affect her afterlife.
Yep.
What about accounting for the fact that people are also going to have no desire to further their own good, to further the good of the others that are around them?
Warm glow. I feel good about helping others. It feels good to watch someone. Ever cook a meal for someone? Yeah, when they survive. But have you ever, when you cook a meal for someone, does it feel good to watch that person enjoy the meal? I really like cooking. And I never cook extravagant meals for myself. I only cook really extravagant meals when I have my wife or my friends or anyone there to enjoy my meal. Why? Because it feels good. It just so happens that the choice is a benefit to the other person. But I have to recognize that I'm doing it because it feels good to me.